first presenter. Her name is Janelle Arbon. So Janelle is a registered landscape architect, and she's also the treasurer of the Australian Institute of Landscape Architects SA chapter. And currently she's also a design consultant for the Adelaide City Council's City Design and Transport section. She was previously also a landscape architect with Swanbury Penglase, and she's also currently doing a PhD, so very, very accomplished and also very busy woman, but we're very glad to have her here today to talk a little bit about what the ACC is doing in regards to nature play. So, Janelle, please come on.
So, yes, nature play. Just checking it's on. So, play spaces are unique environments in cities. They activate, enliven, enhance the public experience of all users, no matter what age, ability, by putting everyone in the same context of one of social interaction and cooperation. There's a number of ways that Adelaide City Council are promoting connections with nature within the city itself. There's been a series of Splash Adelaide events completely about nature play in the parklands, getting muddy. And then there's different programs like 20 Ways with Nature Play, both summer and winter ones, trying to get kids involved, telling parents how you can get your kids out there and have little games, like go find how many butterflies you can find in a park or collect sticks and things. Nature play itself is one way we're promoting health and development of kids in the city. It's a movement that's taken off quite strongly in Australia, which I've always found is strange because we're a country that has vast natural areas that we can just go up to Mount Lofty and play. We don't seem to connect that strongly. You can see this we seem to differ from places like Estonia and Sweden, where they just go out to the forest. They have a summer holidays, they go out there, they play, their kids connect. They don't mind that their cities are quite dense. The addition of nature play in play spaces, that's probably better, or as play spaces themselves offer a range of challenges about the perception of play in cities. Yet nature play is a powerful way to connect kids and their carers, their parents, their brothers and sisters with nature. How strong that connection is about who the kids are, who the parents are, what the design of that space is, and how the space invites people to explore. So tonight I'm going to take you a bit of a journey of Adelaide City Council area and overview how we've changed play in the city. Rethinking our first generation playground legacy, which you'll see quite heavily around the city, to what we're doing now. So first up, the first generation playgrounds, very exciting places. The first playground was built in 1918 by funds from the then Mayor Glover. It opened as a way, or he created these playgrounds as a way to promote the happiness and well-being of children in the city. Without Mayor Glover's funding, Adelaide City Council probably wouldn't have had any playgrounds for quite a while. These early playgrounds, you can see here, were very formal in layout. They divided up boys and girls. They were designed to, really play in the proper manner. They were all fenced, had a very symmetrical layout. So this is Princess Elizabeth Playground that I'll talk about a bit more. So it's very formal layout, entrance at the front, always near a road, parklands at the back, but you weren't allowed in the parklands. What else? And central to them all was this little shelter shed that was the supervisor's shed. So the supervisor had this dual role, basically being a daycare centre, but also keeping boys and girls apart. And this kind of kept going to about the 1970s in Adelaide. Every play space had a supervisor's shed, had a supervisor, made sure you played in the proper way. The first generation playgrounds, there was 45 by 1943, and today we have 16 playgrounds, which are showed by the blue. And by playgrounds, I'm including the BMX tracks, the aquatic centre, the Learn to Ride Safety School up in Benithan Park. But there is an opportunity to put about another 13 play spaces in the city centre, looking at the squares, looking at opportunities for nature play in different places themselves. Our new direction, still sticking with the idea of Meg Glover about promoting happiness and well-being in the city for kids, but instead we're looking at spaces in terms of play spaces instead. We talk about play spaces being outdoor areas of public space with or without play equipment and intended for free, unstructured children's play. So almost anywhere you can think of in the city could be a play space. These spaces encompass the entire environment, so equipment, open space, new landscaping, existing natural features, paved surfaces, amenities as seating and barbecues. They're spaces designed not for a single age group, so we're no longer going to do toddler dedicated play spaces. We're no longer going to do senior dedicated play spaces. They're designed for a range of experiences, so you can go there, play for half an hour, leave. Go there for a picnic, go there for a barbecue, go there for a couple of hours. The landscape elements are meant to match the play value. So if there's a play space that's got amazing natural landscape, we're going to keep that there, but look at how we can incorporate clues or signals to parents that this is a place you can play. And we're trying to make sure the community decide the direction of the play spaces. So there's one that I'll talk about a bit later, a new play space we're developing. Luckily, the community wants nature play in that space, but if they went, no, we only want traditional playground equipment, we would follow that direction. But then sneak in the nature play. So we do want to incorporate nature play into all spaces, but there's still the idea that we need to signal to parents that you can play here, it's a safe space. So the design of a play space to us now is more of a balancing act. You have to balance risk with unstructured play. Risk with safety, structured play with unstructured play, construction timeframes with school holidays, practical concerns of caregivers and kids wanting to have fun, Australian standards with intuition, like knowing what kids want to do, knowing how we can get it done there. The list of challenges are quite extensive, but it kind of makes the projects the fun thing to work on. You never know what you're going to get when you start a project. The Princess Elizabeth Playground, one of their shelter sheds. So one of the projects I'll talk more about in depth because it's the one that we've recently finished. And it does incorporate our new thinking. So it was originally built in 1929 by money left over from the Duke and Duchess of York when they came over to Adelaide. Their request was that it went back into the city for people of Adelaide. While being respectful of the playground's cultural heritage, we wanted to mix it up and reimagine it as a larger play space for future generations to make and enjoy as their own. The redevelopment commenced on about August 2013. We did a few play space audits, very similar to what Gale Architects does with public life studies, to determine the use, what was required there. And then we engaged Jensen Planning and Design to work with internal teams to develop a master plan. We undertook 4 forms of engagement just to find out what the community wanted. One was the Space Shaper workshop with the Sturt Street Community School. Your Say Online, our typical engagement method. A community day with makeshift play equipment. You see the background play equipment on that day did not get any use, so this old crummy stuff. But out here, the amazing things those kids did with these elements. And believe it or not, this is not a spaceship or a tractor. It is a house. I was quite amazed. The mix of, we did a few community workshops as well. So the mix of engagement tools we undertook was to ensure that we heard from the kids in particular. We didn't want the adults' voice, we wanted the kids. And each method asked what the aspirations were. We got the kids to tell us exactly what they knew about the space and what they wanted to play, what they wanted to do in that space. The Sturt Street kids themselves were quite particular. The most in-depth community consultation I've ever done was from this group of receptions to Year 7s. We were quite open with the community stating the play space could become what they wanted, but we did have a few kind of things we took out. Where were they? So we did say no to the Guinea Pig Daycare Centre, the 2-story ice cream shop. We didn't want to put a Mario Brothers track in there, didn't want to design for Pokemon, and I did say no to future-proofing for zombies. We had to draw the line somewhere. But the master plan developed by Jensen's did incorporate the nature and natural elements in the site. So there was a lot of heavy planting in the area, new access way, gardens, labyrinths, sensory play, connecting out through the parklands, connecting down to the biodiversity areas, and creating a focal point in the centre for the community. The final design, which we undertook in-house, built on all the skills we did have as a team. So we got the civil engineers, the environmental engineers, the landscape architects, environmental consultants. We all got together and modified Jensen's plans just in terms of the budget we had allowed and timeframes. We did keep a few things from the original plan, so we kept I lost my place. So the original shelter shed was retained because it's state heritage listed. We kept the path. We decided boys and girls could interact. We took the fence off at the back, and we looked at making this more of a sensory and tactile playground. And distributed the active play and passive play throughout the space to try and incorporate as many abilities into different areas. So trying to let little kids in the space, let their older brothers and sisters, let everyone kind of play based on their ability rather than saying, you're a toddler, you're over there, or you're a senior kid, you're over there. So I'll just flick through a few series of the images of the space where I taught. So sustainability movements were essential parts of the design. We used that to reinvigorate the space by introducing a diverse, creative and unstructured play opportunities and reconnect to the adjacent parklands. We also widened the play space by about another 200 square metres just to kind of spread it out, let people move around and have some space. The idea of introducing nature play into the space was to help connect the parklands back into the area, kind of start that signal up that you can explore past the playground, and also to allow the kids that are out on the oval to come into the play space while they're waiting for their soccer game or football games that occur in that area. Whereas before, the parents had this strict idea that there was a fence there, you couldn't go in without the parent. Off-the-shelf equipment was kept to a minimum based on community consultation, but the equipment that we did keep was there to challenge the users, and we did retain quite a fair bit of the original, the new weight service item at the back. Nature play and sensory play were weaved throughout the space with a focus on tactile elements. So we used reclaimed logs from trees that had been felled in Adelaide City Council area from storms or from health. Timber stepping planks, coloured posts as wayfinding items, pebbles, rock mulch, low plantings, seeding rocks, that we actually used rocks from the aquatic centre when that went through redevelopment rather than putting them somewhere else. Sand, blackboards, drums. A mix of items that allowed the kids to explore how they wanted to explore. Let them into the garden beds, picking plants that could be trampled, but they'll bounce back up. The placement of all these elements were to let the kids, lead kids through on their first experience with the site, give them a circuit they can wander around, and then after about 10 minutes, once they've done that, they just kind of naturally explore and go to where they want. Each item put into the play space was meant to have multiple uses. So the logs there, they're a bit of a fun climbing element. They act as a bridge going through the space, but they also act as some seating. Slide's pretty much a slide, but the kids were really impressed with the slide. It's quite a lot of fun. Rocks become jumping items. Again, bridges. The trees, the kids are actually climbing the fruit trees in the site. Quite an amazing thing, we didn't realise there was any fruit trees in this playground until we cleared out the old bad vegetation that was there that allowed us to redevelop the site, and now there's a really good apricot tree in there. And the practical concerns of caregivers weren't forgotten, so there's extra seating, extra barbecues. A lot more bins went in after this playground opened. It's quite amazing how many bins needed to be put into play space. Extra picnic tables. And the project was lucky enough to be recognised by PIA in 2014 for the consultation work. and recently recognised by the public for the People's Choice Award for the City of Adelaide Prize. So that was a really amazing shock for council. We weren't expecting that. Okay, quickly go through part 9. So part 9 is our next playground we're undertaking. It's in this space here. It was highlighted earlier last year because of the little Lower North Adelaide playground situated here is coming to the end of its useful access life. The vast amount of trees surrounding that playground means that no actual new equipment or design features could go in there without impacting the trees. So we've, as council's looked at moving the playground across the road and reconnecting with existing amenities in this site and the existing community planting. So this is the new site. Doesn't look that great in the middle of summer. We've got a great native planting from planting days, about, I think they were 2009. Really weird little aspects left over from the past, like shot put circles, really great public art popping up, wrought iron gates that have left over from back in the 1920s. This is another project. We actually went through 8 forms of consultation to find out what the community would like in this area. So we taught to Lucy Marie's kindergarten and had the kids go through a whole consultation exercise, which was a lot of fun. McKinnon Parade Childcare Centre, North Adelaide Primary School, talked to Cora Barclay Centre. They really focused on what the kids would like. Had a few consultation days, all running through to find out what people would like to see in this area. So part of it we broke into 8 different elements of the space, showed them a series of images and got them all to vote on what they would like and added up all the votes in the end. And as you can see, apart from that one, it was the natural elements that kind of popped up as being the most important. So the paths, climbing, barriers, and I say barriers because we don't like to think of fencing at new playgrounds. We're thinking of barriers to stop kids running out onto roads, but not as fencing them in. Public art elements, again, it was the water, the cubby houses, the landforms. Seating, again, really natural style elements, and a pocket orchard. So part 9 is going to be pretty, it's one of those new areas that we're combining a pocket orchard into the playground to kind of get that new, kind of thinking about how places could interact together. And this is the concept which will be going to council for endorsement next week, so pretend you haven't seen this yet. But the idea is that we incorporate educational walks through the native planting day, pointing out what plants are where, letting kids explore this area in unfortunately a defined track because of the ecosystem at space. Incorporate new seating around the existing petanque pit, having in a big sand play area with a swale to be created on the side to pick up all the drainage to the side, but also have little games throughout there. So having things like little, I think that current concept is dragonflies in there, so how many dragonflies can you find in that area? Play equipment kept to a minimum, so having something that allows you to swing, still working on it. We're hoping to get in a really big boulder as a climbing element, so kids can climb up rather than climbing up a structure. Sliding equipment, rope play, so you can walk along ropes, rocks as climbing elements, balancing beams. Kind of the elements that are kind of low scale, but also let you explore. And I'll go to my summary just to wrap up the things for you. So, play spaces to us aren't complete when the construction fences comes down, and they don't just connect to nature if there's nature play in the sites. Kids in the community come first, zombies come last, but we might need a future-proof in the future. Fences are a sensitive topic. Sturt Street Community School kids were the ones that got the fences down. They were very, very keen to get the fences away. All the materials that we use in playgrounds are sourced from South Australia or reclaimed for other ACC projects. Heritage does have its place in playgrounds, unfortunately, in Adelaide, so we do have to be mindful of what's there. Kids provide more concise feedback than adults, except for the zombie comment, I should say. But they're the ones that think about everybody else. They don't think about themselves. So it was quite amazing to hear the kids for Princess Elizabeth say, we need to take the fence down so that that guy over there that was sitting on a bench when we did the space shaper can come into the toilets. I was like, oh, good point. They thought about kids on the weekends. They thought about how they would go there after school and what other people would do in that space. They thought about having rosemary in the garden bed so that people having barbecues could put some rosemary on their lunch. Nature play does have a place in ACC, and we are incorporating into playgrounds, but it's going to be how we can subtly get it in there so that parents still know it's a play space, but they don't know it's nature play. It's kind of this balance, trying to get people to explore more. Play space is about interaction and shouldn't just be about kids interacting. It needs to be about getting the parents and caregivers, whoever they're there with the playground, interacting together. And as I said before, they are unique environments, and they're difficult to engage how the community will feel about them until you see kids of all ages using that space. We knew with Princess Elizabeth, this one, that we had done something good and right when there were people there the day after the fences came down. There were dads on the trampolines getting told off from my kids saying it's my turn, or we have to go now, Dad, let's go. Having kids show their parents how to get around the space, playing games on the stepping logs, kids telling their parents off for standing on plants. And I was quite amazed by that one. And then having adults, you can see in the background here, it was the adults on play equipment trying to get their kids to play, and their kids just wanted to play with the other stuff. Which is good. So, yeah, that is it.